10 Cents to Elsewhere, Chapter 6, Third Person Singular. Taliyah always woke up before the sun, not out of discipline, but defense. Mornings were safer when claimed early before the world remembered its obligation and other people's need to knock too loudly. She brewed her tea in silence, jasmine, no sugar. The sound of boiling water was the only thing she trusted before 7 a.m. The cup warmed her hands as she stood at the window of her tiny kitchen, watching the sky fade from bruised blue to something like promise. She didn't speak until she stepped into True North Mystic. Her shop was quiet and small but precise. Everything had weight and everything had its place. Clients said the space felt like memory. She let them think that. The truth was more technical. Memory, after all, could be planted. She simply curated resonance. By 8 a.m., the altar was dusted, the incense lit, and the chalkboard outside bore a new quote. Some truths arrive slowly, but they still arrive. She didn't know who said it. Maybe she had? The first client arrived right on time, a hedge fund manager who looked like her soul had been laundered too many times. Taliyah listened. She always did. The woman wept behind a $600 blowout and left with a prescription of silence and sea salt. Taliyah didn't give answers. She made space. It was mid-afternoon when the coin showed up again. Not in her pocket this time. In the spine of a book she hadn't touched in months. A 2004 dime, thin as breath, wedged inside The Art of Structural Systems, a holdover from her grad school days. She took it quietly, pressed it in her palm, then set it in the drawer with the others, a small constellation, quietly growing. She didn't know what they meant, not fully, but her bones were starting to arrange themselves differently, like some frequency had turned itself closer, like the world had started folding in on purpose. Still, it wasn't magic. Not exactly. Taliyah had theories. She believed the dimes were timestamps, not currency, like the universe was tagging keyframes from a reel of film. Years she hadn't noticed were underlined in retrospect, personal inflection points, pivots in direction. Maybe they weren't for her exactly. Maybe they were just shared, cross-referenced echoes. She hadn't told anyone about them, not even Asha, and Asha was the only person who got past her filters lately. They usually met on Tuesdays, lunch, fashion runs, and low-stakes honesty. Asha worked in arts education and had a laugh that made you laugh even when you didn't want to. She never asked too much about the spiritual stuff, but she always knew when Taliyah needed silence versus sarcasm. Today they walked side by side in their favorite grocery store, baskets in hand. Asha debated granola brands like they were political parties, while Taliyah fingered the outline of a dime in her pocket, half present. "This one's performative," Asha said, holding up a bag with chia seeds. "It's giving activists who ghosted me after yoga." "You're doing that thinking again," she added, not unkindly. "The one where you disappear in the middle of standing still?" "I'm here," Taliyah murmured. "You're somewhere," Asha replied. Then gentler, "Is it that man again, the one you haven't talked to but keep sensing like a second pulse?" Taliyah didn't answer, not because she didn't want to, but because she didn't have an answer. It was easier to distract herself and organize jars, water plants that never wilted. She gave her energy elsewhere so it wouldn't spiral toward him. But Asha wasn't one to let her slip away that easily. "Come with me," she said, dropping a bag of trail mix into Taliyah's basket. "We're going to go get our feet scrubbed, our shoulders kneaded, and our chakras realigned by someone other than you." Nope," Asha cut her off. "You're coming. Nora reading excuses. You've been tense since March, and I don't even think your neck turns left anymore." That afternoon, they sat side by side in recliners at a tucked-away spa above a florist shop. The windows were fogged with steam, the scent of eucalyptus wrapping around them like intention. Asha's laughter bounced off the tiled walls as she teased their pedicurist about nail polish names. Ghosted in gloss apparently sounded like an ex she wasn't ready to talk about. "If I ever disappear," Asha said, wiggling her toes, "this color's your only clue. Ghosted in gloss. Last seen heading into the fog like a good mystery should." Taliyah let out the smallest breath of the laugh, just enough for Asha to catch it. She didn't press. The moment was enough. Taliyah let her shoulders drop just a little. After the massage, they sipped hibiscus tea in silence, robes wrapped tight, feet still warm from the soak. Asha leaned her head on Taliyah's shoulder. "You don't have to tell me everything," she said softly, "but don't forget you're allowed to have people too." Taliyah didn't speak for a long time. Then, "It's not that I don't want to let someone in. It's that I already know how much it will cost." Asha just nodded. "Okay, then let me pay for the first hour." They left the spa just before closing. Shoulders looser, hearts less guarded, Asha grabbed a couple of juices from the corner store and they walked to a nearby park that still smelled faintly of sun-warmed mulch and honeysuckle. They sat on a curved bench beneath a creaking elm tree, sipping slowly, watching dogs tug their people home and toddlers lose arguments with gravity. "It's weird," Asha said, "but I think my spine actually forgave me." Taliyah smiled faintly, eyes following a paper kite caught in a branch above them. They didn't speak much. They didn't have to. The silence between them was earned. They sat like that until the sky outside dimmed into a muted peach. Taliyah hugged her friend goodbye, promising to text when she got home. Instead of heading straight home, she walked a few blocks back to True North Mystic. She hadn't locked up properly before Asha whisked her away, and she felt the tug of the unfinished ritual. She stepped inside the shop and did her usual closing, checked that the incense was out, reset the altar, and left a piece of candied ginger in the offering dish. She hadn't spoken to Clinton yet, not directly, but his name had made its way to her, not through introductions, through other means. It had started a little while ago. A vendor said his name offhandedly while counting change, then a barista reading a scribbled notebook, little breadcrumbs scattered but insistent. A street vendor had said it in passing. A barista mentioned a man who wrote down years instead of names, and once, on a slow bus ride, a kid mumbled it in his sleep, Clinton. Taliyah didn't chase the pattern. She documented it. That was the difference. There had always been signs in her life. She just didn't believe in collecting them like trophies. She treated signs like wind, directional, not divine. But lately, the wind had a name. She stepped outside just after dusk, closed the shop gently, and walked down the street, coat pulled close, no destination. She passed a couple arguing in whispers, a man walking a rabbit on a leash, a chalk drawing of a door with no handle. The city always had messages. She just didn't always translate them aloud. She paused outside a laundromat where a child pointed at a gumball machine and said, "This one's for her," without looking at anyone. Taliyah stared at the coin slot. She didn't put a dime in. Some things weren't for forcing. When she finally got home, the apartment greeted her like a familiar sigh. Sparse but deliberate. A photo of her mother beside the lamp. Before bed, she wrote in her notebook, the small one, leather-bound, stitched by someone who whispered when they worked. She wrote only 3 things. Clinton, year 2004, wind rising at dusk. And then, almost as an afterthought, she added, "Asha made me laugh today." Felt like safety with a joke in it. She capped the pen, turned out the light, and as the room went dark, she didn't feel alone, not quite. Just watched, in a way that didn't press or pry, just made room, like something was asking for her attention, but was willing to wait for it.